Does the university know exactly how much money it expects to receive under the SSAF payments, and then how much of that money is actually going to be forwarded to the University Union?
The first, answer the first part of the question. Sorry, one more. Yeah, so difficult to give you an exact figure, but our modelling is about 1.5 million for SEM 2. The discussion about what goes or doesn't go through the union is a separate discussion, and it's actually related to the point I've already answered. So we have a kind of base arrangement, and then what may not will depend on that kind of consultation. But the legislation is quite clear. It's the university that's responsible.
The Higher Education Student Services and Amenities Fees Act requires consultation with students and student representatives as to how SSAF money will be spent. In addition to the survey that was sent out, what other consultation processes have you engaged in?
Here's one. And I think the point is that any time really through this process, and a number of students have contacted us individually. We've had kind of collective inputs from various particular groups, particularly those that feel that perhaps they want their voice not to be drowned out by a kind of majority basis. That's been a constant thing. I know you have done your own kind of soundings. So I think it's been a kind of a whole series of what you might call ad hoc, but quite important inputs. But we did set out that the survey would be the primary piece of consultation, and I think we have been really encouraged by the response, both in terms of the numbers and the quality, but also the comments that are coming around the side. So there's been a lot of response to them that way. Is there any other bit of consultation I've missed?
Could I just follow up on that? Sorry. I guess the TUU organised this in recognition that there perhaps weren't enough avenues for students to express and comment on what they wanted SSAF to be spent on. And the survey was conducted very early in the year before a lot of students knew about SSAF and what SSAF was. So do you think maybe another survey would be beneficial, or do you feel that you have a good understanding of what students want with this fee?
I haven't, I would have to say at this stage I haven't actually got into the detail of the 1,700 responses. I think that is a piece of work to be finished. I think that at this stage we've probably got a fairly rich view. Certainly everything I've heard from those that are beginning to look at the data is that we've got more than enough data really to go on. But I go back to the point I've already said, which is that subsequently we'll have to look with the students, again through kind of consultative mechanisms, on whether the decisions that will take effect in semester 2 will have a life beyond semester 2. In other words, what will happen in subsequent years.
Can you give us any indication of what we expect to see in semester 2? What it's going to be spent on?
Not yet, because that's. I mean, you've seen the broad areas that the legislation allows, and in that sense, all I can say is the university's position is that we want to be completely responsive to what comes back from the feedback, but B, we're mindful of the needs of all students. So we are very concerned to ensure that there's coverage, if you like, through the enhanced amenities to the distributed campuses, to students at a distance, students in workplace environments, as well as to, if you like, Sandy Bay campus-based students. And that is a kind of a basic principle which we're operating through. That doesn't mean to say that we're not also looking at how we concentrate the amenities where there's more of a concentration of students. So it's a balancing act. But I think we can expect to see from the university's position some concentrated effort in distributed campuses as well as on the St. Rebecca campus.
Just a couple of comments about one about the survey and two about the process up to the stage. The first one is that it seems like both the survey and the process as to what we got to now and what we're about to decide upon has been pretty much ordained by the powers that be. It seems to me there's been precious little opportunity for the student collective to actually engage in designing how this process has been going. That to me is upsetting. And looking from the quality of the cynicism on the tweet feeds that have been coming.
You can see it, I can't.
Yeah, certainly worth a look. And I note the disturbing inscription on our gentleman's hat over on the side over there, which rather worries me a bit. As the way in which it seems to me that the university administration have managed this whole process from going away. And I'm just wondering whether or not there are going to be any of the funds that are available. There's an extensive amount that's going to be able to actually encourage student activism in such a way as there is a vigorous discussion that goes on campus between the student body, the student body and the students and the administration. Because in the last 7 or so years that I've been here as a sort of a re-entrant, that sort of discussion has been absolutely noted by its almost entire absence.
I'll take it on from first. Thanks for the comments, I appreciate that. I'm well aware of your history with TUU. Look, we're working collectively with UTAS at this stage on making sure that the student voice is heard. My role as Statewide President is to work closely with three campuses, but I've obviously got David here traveling with me to Berlin to make sure that we engage students there as well. We'll work collectively with UTAS and just make sure that student voice is heard from this matter. And hopefully, what we want to see as well from this funding is the reinvigoration of the TUU, to see the return of services and to make sure that student representation is once again there.
And perhaps just to echo that point, and I think we just have to agree to disagree on the degree to which the survey itself was an open process or a mandated, closed bureaucratic process. But on the broader concept of the student voice, the collective student voice, I'm really, really keen, and this is the point that Saleh has already made, to ensure that the university is listening, is hearing, and is responsive to the student voice. We've actually reframed our committee structure to ensure a much clearer way in which the student voice can be heard, including a student voice subcommittee, if that's what it's called. And that will be feeding into the broader student experience committee. We are, and this is a discussion that Saleh and I have had in more detailed way, trying to facilitate the TUU and the broader kind of student community to make direct inputs into the core of the university's business. So we may disagree about the particularities of this survey, but the broader point is shared.
Yeah, we probably will. That's fine. No problem. The other, take it one step further, if I may. It seems to me that the difficulties that we have with regard to actually establishing that mechanism for having that facilitated dialogue of grievances and disturbances and worries and all those sort of things that the student population necessarily have in a climate where the workloads and students' workloads are incredibly bigger than they ever were when I was 23, 24, 25. The actual mechanisms and the medium by which we use to actually encourage and facilitate those engagements seems to be something we need to look at.